Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to episode number 3 of your new favorite television show, Coffee Time with your friend Brad. I have not gotten dressed for the day. My hair looks like a dumpster fire, and I smell bad because I haven't showered. But I have fancy coffee this morning. I have hot coffee, and I have a little French press here. And I hope that you are having a fantastic day, no matter when you watch this video cast. I want to talk with us today about two things in our episode. Number one, I want to talk about interleaving. I want to make sure we don't miss a really critical point. And then number two, I want to talk a little bit about the lesson plan and what's to come next week. Because to say I'm pumped about academic games would be a monumental understatement. All right. So first, interleaving. So we talked a little bit about interleaving in our text. There was a slide, but we just ran out of time and we didn't have a chance to get to it. Remember that Lang talks about interleaving as kind of this differentiated learning technique, right? That we ask students to go back to core concepts or to integrate previous material into the material that we're learning here. And I think in a medical education context, this is something you probably already do all the time, right? So let's take, for example, we're going to learn how the circulatory system works. So I teach anatomy and physiology. I can just teach the circulatory system, but if I'm teaching how the human body works, I also have to teach how the respiratory system works and how these things work together. And we might go back to core concepts about the circulatory system, the respiratory system, and ask students to integrate that information. It is ensuring that students are able to circle back to previous content, so previous material, on a regular basis, and doing that in multiple spaced exposure intervals. And that promotes the deepest learning possible. But Lang also mentions this one cautionary tale that I think is really important for us to know here. He says, and I'm looking at his book right here, he says that you block and leave, right? And I'm looking at page 81, that we block and leave. That blocked learning sessions probably make up the foundation of most course content, right? It is how many instructors teach. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at what Lang talks about with interleaving, I want to encourage you to do that this week and to see how you might be able to implement strategies that Lang is talking about, particularly some really small tweaks that you might be able to add to your class. I think what you're going to find is that interleaving is likely something that you already do, and now you can be consciously aware of that. So again, interleaving is just asking students to circle back to previous course content on a regular basis. Asking them to retrieve that information, pull that information forward, and integrate it. And that we do that in a conscious and a purposeful manner, right? So enough about interleaving. I may put some other resources up on our site. Just check that out. Number 2, the lesson plan template that is coming up. So first of all, had a chance to look through everybody's lesson templates. I'm super impressed with what you were able to turn in a short amount of time from our class. In class this coming Monday, we're going to dedicate an enormous amount of time to working on that. And I want you to not feel boxed in or to feel like there's a right way to do something, but I would rather want you to think about, how do I use the topic that I'm going to be teaching, right? So for example, ethics or nursing theory or something about biomedical education, right? How are you going to take that topic and then how will you teach it using the instructional strategy? So how would you teach it using a discussion-based method? How would you teach it using academic games, or how would you lecture that? And what would be really impressive and super cool is if you can integrate some of the things that Lang has been talking about in his book in terms of maybe some opening and closing questions, right? Maybe some quizzing, maybe you're going to have time to do some interleaving in your activity. So this coming week, I'm excited to see what we come up with and how we kind of open up the box around learning and think outside of that box a little bit. One last thing, since it is coffee time with your friend Brad, I wanted to introduce a couple of other books that I've been reading on the past week. So, of course, we have Lang, and I'm rereading this book for the third time as we go through our class. But also, there's a couple of other books I think are really good. I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. This is a book, Leaders Eat Last, out in paperback now. And then this is a new one somebody turned me on to, The Power of Moments. Dr. Jerry Rabelais turned me on to this book here, and Stacy Sainer in our class. And so I picked that book up this weekend. It's a really great book. You might think about grabbing it. And then one of the things that I talked about in class last week is how if the class, early in my teaching, if the class didn't go really well, I had a tendency to really kind of beat myself up on the way home emotionally. And so I'm also reading this book called Grace is Greater. And this book is really helpful for me to work through some things around those issues. So those are the 3 books that I'm reading on right now, in addition to what we have going on in class. I hope you have an amazing day. And I look forward to seeing everybody on Monday night. Thank you for joining me for episode 3 of Coffee Time with your friend Brad. And I hope, until next time, your coffee stays hot. Take care, guys.